Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's informational webinar on the Affordable Multifamily Program Upstate. You'll hear us call it AMP Up. I'm going to give people just 30 seconds to get logged in, making sure everyone got in here. Um, and then I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, hopefully we have the audience all here. So I'm going to start off with a few logistics. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on NYSERDA's website. Additionally, all of the slides will be distributed to the attendees after the webinar. Questions will be submitted through Slido, through the Q&A function of Slido. When you logged in, Slido should have opened, or it should have asked you if it was okay to open. I have a slide coming up to kind of help with that. But that's the way to ask any questions, will be through that Slido app. And those questions are only visible to the panelists. The questions will be addressed at designated times throughout the presentation. So we have 3 different times throughout the presentation where we'll pause and answer the questions that we've gotten so far through that Slido Q&A. We do not anticipate having enough time to answer all the questions today, but know that the unanswered questions will be reviewed and responses will be sent to attendees afterwards, along with the slides. We'll probably link to the FAQ document, which is where we plan on putting all the AMP-UP related questions from today's call and answering those. And for some of the questions, if you can reference the slide number, that might be helpful. Please make sure to include the slide number. So for WebEx, the Slido, as I mentioned before, Slido is how the questions are asked. There should be a like an extra little window on the right side of my screen where Slido pops up. If you don't see that right now, you should be able to click on the 3 dots on your screen and choose Slido to pop up. The chat, audio, and video have been disabled for the audience. So again, the Q&A is the way to ask questions. If you need any help, any technical help now or throughout the presentation, feel free to either put the question in the Q&A feature, or if you can't get to Q&A, reach out to Kelly Hammond, and her email is kelly.hammond@nyserda.newyork.gov. So hopefully you're able to get into the Slido. We'll also be asking a few polls at the beginning and at the end through Slido as well. The agenda for today, we're going to start off with the welcome. That's what I'm doing right now. And then we're going to go over the background, kind of like what set the stage for AMP Up, where it came from, some other information. Then we'll move to an introduction to AMP Up. We'll talk about building eligibility, incentives for the projects that go through AMP Up. We're really excited to announce the resilience enhancements that are new to NYSERDA through this AMP Up program. And then we'll close out with next steps, including how to apply to the program. Today, we have 4 speakers joining us. We have Pam, who's the Senior Project Manager of AMP Up. She'll be doing the majority of the speaking. We're also joined by Brian, who's the Program Manager of Multifamily. We have Anna joining us, who will be talking about the resilience enhancements. And we have Maria, who will be talking to us about technical assistance. In addition to the speakers, we have 2 facilitators today. I'm Shelley. Nice to see you all. I will be the facilitator who you get to see and hear, but Lindsay is also doing probably more work than I am in the back end, making all the Q&A magic happen. So thank you to Lindsay and her team for helping us with this. Okay, so we're going to launch the polls. The first 2 questions about who is in the audience today. So I just launched the polls. You should see it on the probably right side of your screen. Our first question is, who's here today in our audience? So please pick your primary role based on those options. And then the second question is, where are you joining us from today? Let's see. I'll go here and share what we're seeing so far. Let's see. So it looks like we have several consultants, several people from government agencies, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of building owners and managers, a lot of contractors. That's great. I'll give it another minute to get some more results in there. Um, this is great. This really helps us understand like who's attending so that we can make sure that our answers are best tailored to the audience. Okay, and let's see where everyone is joining us from. So I'll launch those results too. We have a lot of people from downstate, from New York City, Mid-Hudson, Finger Lakes, the Capital Region. But it looks like we have representation across the entire state, which is exciting. Super glad to see that. Super excited. Okay. And then we have one more question for the beginning here. And that question is, what is one thing that you hope to learn about today? So this isn't a generic question. This is really more about, we want to see whether or not we created the right slide deck for you all. Is this going to answer the questions that you had joined hoping to hear? So think about back to when you registered for this webinar, like what were you really hoping to learn about? And this will help us make sure that we, when we have this webinar in the future, that we put together the slide deck appropriately and are answering your questions. So let's see. People are interested in the incentives, the eligibility criteria, how to participate as a contractor, program details, coordinating AMP with WAP. These are a lot of great things. A lot of these things we're going to answer today. Some of them we're not. But as I mentioned, we're going to use today's questions to help inform our FAQ. So if you have questions in here that we're not answering, excuse me, things that we're not discussing, but that, and we don't have time to discuss in the question section either, we'll make sure that that information is available to you in that FAQ or through the main website. Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna leave that open in case people are still typing. I see a few more people are typing, but pass it off to Brian to start going over the background for this program.
Great. Thank you so much, Shelley, and good morning, all. So happy to be with you here today to talk about the AMP Up program. So we can get started with the background if we want to go to the next slide, please. So to start this discussion, we really wanted to orient you all to where AMP Up lives in the affordable multifamily program landscape. I should note that this is a really simplified version of the program landscape. Of course, there's more programs operating in this affordable multifamily universe than I'm presenting here today. This slide is really just intended to illustrate the transition of the affordable multifamily energy efficiency program and the transition in the statewide offering there. So in terms of open enrollment, affordable multifamily energy efficiency programs for existing buildings, I know that's a mouthful, what we were offering in 2021 to 2025, we had the Affordable Multifamily Energy Efficiency Program that was open to projects statewide, and it was administered by the investor-owned utilities, both upstate and downstate. Now in 2026 to 2030, that affordable multifamily energy efficiency program will only serve the downstate market. And when we say downstate, we are specifically talking about the utility service territories of Con Ed, National Grid Long Island, and National Grid Metro. And the program administrators for the program for AMEP are Con Ed and National Grid. And then with AMEP serving the downstate market, the new affordable multifamily program Upstate, the one that we're talking about today, that will be serving the upstate market. And we can talk a little bit more about what we mean upstate. So really, main takeaway here is AMEP will continue to serve the downstate market, and AMP Up, administered by NYSERDA and launched earlier this month, will serve the upstate market. And we can go to the next slide, please. Great. So our AMP Up program design had the following goals that were really developed based on stakeholder feedback. Our goals were to streamline the customer journey, to provide flexibility that would meet building owners and managers where they are, to maintain tenant affordability, and to take an energy efficiency first approach. And throughout the slide deck, we'll try to illustrate where that goal is coming up. So hopefully you can see that apparent throughout the presentation and throughout the as you learn more about the program, you'll be able to see that as well. Thank you. So next are we also relied on housing data to help inform our program design, in addition to the stakeholder feedback. So there are approximately 254,000 affordable housing units in the upstate multifamily market. The pie chart that's on the left here breaks down that number by the type of building that those units may be found in. Since we're specifically talking about the multifamily buildings, we start with a basis of buildings 5 units or more. The segments that we presented here are 5 to 9 units. So buildings with 5 to 9 units, buildings with 10 to 19 units, buildings 20 to 49 units, and buildings 50 plus units. The segment with the greatest percentage of affordable housing units at 34% is the 5 to 9 unit building segment, followed by the 50 plus unit segment, which is 30%. What we noted particularly when we looked at this data was that over 50% of the units were in multifamily buildings that had under 20 dwelling units. And when we met with our stakeholders and teased out that data point a little bit further, we learned that small buildings have historically faced challenges participating in energy efficiency and use incentive programs, and we've seen that historically in program participation. So some of the obstacles that were identified in those stakeholder discussions were that smaller buildings tended to need more technical support in terms of energy audits, hand-holding across from application through project closeout. They don't have the same opportunities for economies of scale as their larger counterparts. They can be difficult to reach because of the ownership structure where there is less centralization of buildings and units under a single owner or manager. So that makes it a little bit more challenging to target them in our outreach. And contractors in general tend to focus on larger properties that have the potential to receive larger incentive payments overall. So these findings helped inform the development of the program's low-rise pathway, which we'll discuss a little bit later in this presentation. We can go to the next slide, please. So overall, the AMP Up budget, the AMP Up program budget, has dedicated over $125 million in incentives, and this table shows the general breakdown of those funds. You know, really still keeping it at a high level, but in general, the budget components are energy efficiency and building electrification upgrade incentives, incentives for resilience enhancements, uh, incentives for design assistance for resilience, and technical assistance and concierge services. And we can go to the next slide, please. So we'll certainly go into all those different components of the program a little bit later in this presentation, but I know this is a rather lengthy webinar today, so if you all can't stay with us for the full presentation, we really wanted to make sure you had at least this takeaway from today's discussion. The program is live as of April 16th, and the webpage is at nyserda.ny.gov/ampup, and there you can go to learn more about the program and access all the program resources. This QR code will take you directly to that program page. Additionally, if you have questions about the program and want to just learn more about it and speak to us directly, feel free to email us at multifamilyprograms@nyserda.ny.gov, and we will reach back out to you and follow up. And with that, I'll turn the mic over to my colleague Pam to tell you more about the program. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're super excited to have you all here today. Go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. So the Affordable Multifamily Program Upstate, again, we're calling that AMP Up for short, offers multifamily buildings in upstate New York incentives for energy efficiency and building electrification upgrades. While we were developing this offer, we focused on creating a streamlined customer journey by embedding technical assistance and offering concierge service to help participants navigate the program. There is no need to apply to different programs to get all of these services. They were all included as part of this program offering. Think of the concierge service as almost a white glove approach to navigating the program. You'll work with a participating contractor who will guide you through the entire process from application to project completion. Multiple upgrade categories with generous incentives per dwelling unit, as seen in the graphic on the right, offer flexibility to meet project owners and participants where they're at. We're also excited to share that AMP Up is the first NYSERDA program to offer resilience enhancement incentives. These incentives will be available for eligible projects, and they're meant to take steps to protect their investment and to reduce current and future climate risks from flooding, extreme heat, and wind to energy-saving measures and building residents. AMP Up offers two upgrade pathways. We have a low-rise pathway and a large building pathway. Next slide, please. As Brian had mentioned on the previous slides, more than half of the LMI, low to moderate income, multifamily building stock in upstate New York have less than 20 units. The graphic that's on the right of this slide is simply a visual to show you where the portion of the low to moderate income multifamily building stocks by size are located in our upstate region. The low-rise pathway focuses on projects with 5 to 20 units and are 1 to 3 stories. And it's meant to address some of those hurdles that Brian was mentioning a few slides ago. NYSERDA has paved a pathway tailored to these smaller buildings by utilizing local, regional clean energy hubs and community-based organizations to help with the initial engagement and to connect the owners with the right people to get started. The concierge services can even provide a concierge contractor to assist the owner with participation in the program. So if you don't know where to start there. This pathway offers a streamlined alternative to modeling to reduce the costs for planning, building electrification, and deep retrofit scopes of work. And the incentive caps have been increased from 70% of the scope of work to 85%. Knowing that capital is often a struggle for these smaller projects, we've structured the incentives for the pathway so that more money is paid out earlier in the process. Next slide. As you saw a few slides ago, there are 6 incentive categories with a mix of different building upgrades available to building owners. To give you specific examples of what type of upgrades those categories have, a few have been listed here on this slide. We're talking about upgrades from as simple as replacing refrigerators with freezers, to low flow aerators and shower heads, to lighting upgrades, air sealing, roof and wall insulation, to high efficiency upgrades for space heating and cooling and domestic water heating, and heat recovery ventilation, to floodproofing your upgrades and more. While there are specifications and requirements that are bound by these available upgrades, AMP Up does allow you to create your own custom pathway to your energy efficiency future. A complete list of the upgrades supported by the program can be found on the AMP Up website. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit about the customer journey. One thing that we heard about while we were doing the research for designing the programs is that customers really said they needed flexibility and they needed a simple way to participate in program offerings. We heard those sentiments and have tailored the customer's experience around 5 main participation points. The owner will first work with the participating contractor to develop a scope of work that meets their needs and their budget. Next, the owner will sign a participation agreement, which confirms their understanding and interest in participating in the AMP-UP program. The owner will then join their participating contractor on a scoping call with the NYSERDA program key team members. The scoping call will review the program rules and go over roles and responsibilities of everyone involved. This is also where an owner may learn about their eligibility for resilience enhancements, and we will review potential incentives. The owner will be responsible for completing a couple of program documents and to help coordinate with the tenants to get signatures and to gain access for any work. And then finally, you and your tenants get to enjoy your new building upgrades. Your participating contractor will be your primary contact and will keep you well informed of the status throughout the entire process. You can choose how involved you are outside of these 5 key steps in your participation. And at this time, I'm going to pass over the webinar to my colleague, Maria. She's going to cover the next few slides for us. Thanks, Maria.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pam. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Cangiano. I'm a senior project manager on our multifamily team, and I'm here to talk to you about our technical assistance side of the AMP-UP program. So we wanted to make sure to offer customers the most options for how to access this program. And there are 2 options that you have in who you can work with. The first option is to choose a NYSERDA approved contractor. That list of contractors that we are working with is the Multifamily Contractor Network, and that is located on the NYSERDA website. And you will be able to pick a contractor of your choice who are listed and pre-approved by NYSERDA. That is one option. The next option is if you approach this program and you do not have a contractor to work with and you would like NYSERDA to connect you with a contractor, we will be able to connect you and assign you a contractor to work with. So we really wanted to offer that option for customers who may have a provider who's already within the multifamily contractor network, that you can work with a contractor of your choice, but then also to ensure that those who don't have a contractor to work with and maybe are struggling with finding one, to have the option for NYSERDA to assign a contractor for you. For option number 2, just to note that this can be done by either working with a participating regional clean energy hub or a community-based organization, and you can complete the interest intake form that's available on the program website or emailing the program multifamilyprograms@nyserda.ny.gov. And those are the 2, the email address and the program page that Brian made reference to earlier. And you will be paired with a participating contractor through the concierge service. And again, the participating regional clean energy hubs and community-based organizations, contact information can be found on the program website. Yes, thank you so much. For the next slide. Thank you. This is for the services provided. And again, this falls under the umbrella of technical assistance that we're talking about today. So we try to parse it out with a technical assistance, which all projects will be doing. All of the indicators, the check marks that are in black, also are going to be requirements for technical assistance. So regardless of if they are considered a concierge service or they're considered a technical assistance service, those are all required. And just to clarify that anything in gold, the gold check marks, those are optional services that you can choose to opt into. The other distinction that I'll go to in a little bit more detail in the next slide, and why we have parsed these out between concierge service and the technical assistance service, is because there is a cost share that is associated with the concierge service that is capped at $35,000 per project. And the technical assistance is based on the provided scope of work and the technical assistance budget that you will be provided at the time of application. So just to make those 2 distinctions here. For the concierge service, that may include the program application and the compliance guidance, capital funding guidance and/or analysis, installation the contractor selection support and the construction monitoring and project closeout. Again, that in addition to the building assessment and the project scoping are the those are the optional services. Sorry. For the required services are the program application, the building assessment, project scoping, project deliverables, project planning, construction oversight, and project closeout. So pleased to make note that there is a distinction within this slide and within the program of required services and optional services. Just to note that the multifamily contractor network is our more traditional contractor offering, and the building or the owner, and I know that we have several on this call, so you may choose from a list of the pre-approved participating contractors and enter into a contract directly with that company to provide services. And there is a basic list of services that the participating contractors are expected to provide, which again includes the required ones that are marked with the black check mark on the top. And then again, to reiterate, the gold check marks are the optional ones. And pleased to note that since the contract is, if you are going to be working with a multifamily contractor, to please note that this contract is not held by NYSERDA, and it may include more services if the building or the owner developer wishes, and you would just be responsible for paying out of pocket if there were additional costs that were to come through. Next slide, please. So next is the service incentives. Again, just to share that there are a few different options based on the type of projects that we have. So for the project type, if there is a PHA, a public housing authority that is owned or managed or located in a DAC, a disadvantaged community, the NYSERDA coverage will be 100% for concierge services, which is up to $35,000 that I mentioned before. If your building is a non-PHA, so a non-public housing authority, owned or managed and not located in a disadvantaged community, that is 100% concierge services that will be covered up to $20,000 and 75% from the remainder up to the $35,000 cap. So the $20,001 to $35,000. For the technical assistance incentives that are available to all projects. For the technical assistance, there is the building assessment and project scope, which again, as a reminder, are the requirements for the technical assistance. Just to please note that those are paid out in two separate stages. So for stage one is a 75% cost share. For those of you who are familiar with our FlexTech program, that's a similar cost share for completing the project deliverables. So that's 75% of the approved technical assistance budget. And then at stage two, when you're moving forward with the implementation of your AMP Up project, then the additional 25% will be released, bringing you up to 100% of the cost share for the technical assistance. And then just to note for floodproofing design assistance, which my colleague Anna will be talking about in a little bit, that is 100% of approved TA budget that will be paid out at stage one. And since that is 100%, there's not an additional payment that you'll be receiving at stage two. So to please note all of these items and the different payment schedules that you have based on what you are going to be installing. I'm going to pass it over to Shelley because we're going to do some Q&A. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Maria. So yes, just a few reminders before I start asking some questions of the panel, who I asked to come up to turn on your cameras, please. So just a reminder, we will be sending the slides out after the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on NYSERDA's website. If you have questions, please put them in the Slido Q&A function. A reminder, we'll probably not have time to answer all of the questions live today, but we will answer them in the FAQ and link to that in the email we send out with the slides. And with that, we do have a few questions. So my first question is for Pam. Are 8-unit buildings in complexes with multiple buildings, for example, 30 plus units, counted in the 5 to 9 category or the 50 plus unit category?
Thanks, Shelley. Great question. So that is something that has come up in the past as well. As of right now, we are considering our projects by project size, which would mean the total number of units per project application. So in this instance, this would be 30 buildings, but it is something that we are still discussing on the back end. So we will answer that question in the FAQ doc after this webinar.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. I have another question for you, Pam. Can awarded funding offered by AMP Up be stacked with other NYSERDA or state programs?
Yes and no. We actually have a slide coming up that goes over program coordination with other available incentive offerings. So more to come on that in just a few slides.
Great. We have another question, Pam. Are PHAs included in AMP Up?
Yeah, public housing authorities are more than welcome to participate in the AMP Up program. We also have the Public Housing Authority cohort that we started earlier this year. And if you have more questions about that and future participation in new rounds, feel free to reach out to us at multifamilyprograms@nyserda.ny.gov.
Great. And we have another question about stacking, which I'll ask, but I think might be covered later, is can this be layered with CEI through HCR? And Pam, I'll let you.
Yeah, so again, this is covered on a slide in the future, but clean energy initiatives are not eligible to be stacked with AMP Up incentives at this time.
Great. Let's see. Still waiting for some more questions to come through. In the meantime, Pam, I have a question for you. I know you've been working on multifamily projects with NYSERDA for almost 15 years, I believe. What
Yeah.
excites you most about this program?
I'm really excited about this program with two things, actually. One is that this is really, truly a customizable program. So in the past, we've always kind of had to meet certain restrictions, certain deadlines, certain targets. And this program really, we spent a lot of time and effort making this customizable to make sure that we're able to provide the flexibility to meet the customers where they're at. The other thing that I'm super excited about is the resilience enhancements, and I can't wait for you all to see the presentation on those coming up soon.
Okay, great. Well, I don't see any other questions right this second, but we have two more question times. So our Q&A team is processing the questions that we have. So we'll ask some more at the next section. So thank you for your questions. Thanks for the answers. And I'm going to pass it to Brian, I believe, to go over building eligibility.
Great. Thanks, Shelley, and thanks, Pam and Maria, for the details on AMP Up. Now want to check to make sure that you all are eligible to participate in the program. So just want to go through these program eligibility slides. If we can go to the next slide, please. Next slide when you get a chance. Great. Thank you. So in order for a project to be eligible, it must be located in the upstate region. And so by upstate, we are specifically talking about territory north of Con Ed service territory. So we cannot accept projects in the downstate region of the state. And by downstate, we mean projects located in Con Edison or National Grid's Kedney or Kedley territories. Those projects would not be eligible. Those specific buildings would not be eligible to participate in the program. Unlike previous programs, we can accept projects in buildings that do not pay into the electric or gas system benefits charge. We have additional funding that enables us to offer incentives to those buildings. We can go to the next slide, please. A project must have a minimum of 5 dwelling units in order to participate. And by that, we can accept projects that consist of one or more existing multifamily buildings, provided that at a minimum, the overall total number of units For the buildings involved in the project is 5 units, and each building has a minimum of 2 units. So for multiple buildings to apply as a single project, they must be in close proximity with the same building owner or manager and implementing a consistent scope of work. So we can have multiple buildings, each being at least 2 units, with the aggregate of at least 5 units to participate as a single project in the program. Projects in buildings that are greater than 150 units must receive prior authorization before submitting an application. And we're really doing that to help us manage the budget for the program. So we just ask that you provide details about the project. It could be emailed to us at multifamilyprograms@nysarta.ny.gov, so we can respond to you before you submit a full application. And details about that are in our program manual, which is on our program page. Mixed-use buildings are allowed to participate, but for them to participate in the program, we must have at least 50% of the gross heated square footage be residential or residentially associated space. And furthermore, we can accept substantial renovations or gut rehab projects. And by substantial renovations, just to go through what that it could entail, it could be a change of use and reconstruction of an existing building or space within, construction work that requires the building or space within to be out of service for at least 60 consecutive days, or reconstruction of a vacant structure or space within. So we can accept those in the program as of now. Ultimately, if you do have questions, if your existing building conditions or proposed scope of work would be acceptable, please just contact us and we can go through those details. Additionally, the project must meet LMI criteria, and that is defined as at least 25% of the units for the project must be less than or equal to 80% area median income or state median income, whichever is higher. And that's at the project level, not just at the building level. But specifically at the project level, I should just reemphasize. And projects must use an approved participating contractor, and only those contractors are permitted to submit an application for the program. And we can go to the next slide, please. Great. So now I just wanted to talk a little bit about electrification eligibility. So electrification is a measure. There's a series of measures for space heating that could be included in the program, but we really just want to emphasize that projects that are intending to electrify the building space heating must demonstrate that neither the building owner nor the tenant will have increased utility costs due to the installation of the proposed electrification system. And this is really speaking to the goal of maintaining tenant affordability. These requirements are really intended to protect the owners and tenants from any increased energy burden due to electrification work. If you have questions about the methodology and the rigor of this technical review, I implore you to contact us. The specific details of this methodology have not been posted on our program page quite yet. They will be available soon, along with the guidelines for energy analysis for other scopes of work. Let me go to the next slide, please. So I know we got a couple questions already regarding program coordination and layering of funds with other program funds. So we know it's challenging to navigate how various state and utility programs all articulate with each other. This table is intended to help provide some helpful guidance. In the application process, we do ask you to indicate what other programs the project is intending to participate in, and we will review those details on a case-by-case basis. With that said, for some general directional guidance, AMP Up primarily uses ratepayer funding for its incentives. So based on that, we cannot layer with other ratepayer funded programs. I know I did mention that we have additional funds in this program, but we are keeping to maintaining the ratepayer funding guidance and how we layer with other programs. So With that said, essentially cannot layer with other ratepayer funded programs, and that includes the New York State Clean Heat Program, which is a ratepayer funded program, other utility programs, and the Clean Energy Initiative. I know that came up in the question. That is provided by the New York State Homes and Community Renewal Agency. We can layer program funds with the Weatherization Assistance Program that is not ratepayer funded, state ratepayer funded dollars, and with other HCR programs, including the Climate Friendly Homes Fund. With that said, under no circumstances can the combination of our AMP up incentives and any of those associated program funds, they cannot exceed 100% of the total project costs. So really, we will review that and confirm that we are maintaining under 100% of those total project costs are covered by the combination of incentives. And now I'll turn it over to Pam to share more details about the program structure and the incentive structure. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. You can go ahead and advance to the next slide. So this is what I think a lot of you have been waiting for. Here is a look at the available incentives. We have incentive category we have incentive category caps, and we have pathway incentive caps, whether you're a low-rise pathway or a large building pathway. This table doesn't include the resilience enhancements incentives that we had spoke about earlier, which are in addition to these incentives that you're seeing in this table here. Those resilience enhancement incentives will be discussed in just a few slides. If you can advance to the next slide, thank you. So for technical assistance and concierge services, there is no differentiation between the incentive category and the pathway caps. These costs are covered up to 100% of the agreed upon scope and costs. Your participating contractor will submit a technical assistance plan during the application stage of your project, which will define what services they are providing and what their associated fees are. And those will be reviewed by the program and agreed upon before we issue the incentive offer letter. NYSERDA will cover 100% of those approved costs. Next slide. For the end use incentives, incentives are capped at the lesser of two, either the incentive this is a mouthful, I'm sorry, the incentive category cap or the pathway cap. Either the project's incentives are capped at the category, which is the per unit incentive. So you see the refrigerator is $400 per unit, the prescriptive is $1,750 per unit, or by the cost of the scope of work, depending on the project size. So we have the low-rise pathway incentive cap, which we talked about earlier, having that 85% cap, and the large building pathway incentive cap, which is set at 70% of the scope of work. Next slide, please. A project can install measures across multiple incentive categories, and the incentives are additive. It's important to note that by default, all incentives are paid to the participating contractor, and participants seeking direct payment must make that designation when you're submitting the initial application with your participating contractor. AMP Up allows staged project participation, meaning that projects are allowed to enter the program multiple times over the course of the initial program term, which is 2026 to 2030, and to receive incentives. New scopes of work will qualify for additional incentives, and new upgrades being implemented that were not previously funded by the program would be eligible to participate. Let's go over an example to help you understand how these incentive cost caps work, because I know that's a little bit difficult to see on paper. So for this example, we're going to use a 20-unit, two-story project that applied to the program in 2026. So you're looking at the maximum available incentives, which are set by the incentive cap. We have a total of $8,000 available for appliances. So that's $400 per unit times 20 units. We have a total of $35,000 available for prescriptive. Again, the same, 1750 times 20, so on and so forth. We go down the line through the separate incentive categories. These are what's available to that building between the funding cycle, the program term, which is during the funding cycle, 2026 to 2030. Next slide. Okay. So the 20-unit project, again, applied in 2026. We have those available maximum incentives, but we also have the 85% cost cap. Next slide. So in 2026, the cost of work that was associated with the scope that was applied for was a total of $20,000 for appliances, $15,000 for prescriptive, and $40,000 in weatherization upgrades. So if we're looking at the 85% of the scope of work cost, we have $17,000 as 85% of that appliance rebate, $12,750 for prescriptive, and $34,000 for weatherization. Here we're highlighting what caps are being met. So in the instance where we're looking at the appliance rebate, the lesser of the two values, either the maximum available incentive or the 85% of the cost of work, is the $8,000. So we're capping out at the incentive cost category. But for prescriptive, we're hitting the 85% of the cost category with remaining available incentives in the first column. Next slide. So as you can see, what will end up being paid for the 2026 scope of work upon completion of construction would be the $8,000 for your appliances for the refrigerator upgrades, $12,750 for prescriptive, and $34,000 towards the weatherization upgrades in that project. And so that leaves no remaining available incentives left for refrigerator upgrades. But moving forward into the future years, we have $22,250 left for prescriptive measures, $16,000 left for weatherization, and we haven't touched our electrification or deep retrofit incentive category budgets yet. Let's imagine that in 2028, the project decided to reapply. And this time they're installing $20,000 more in new prescriptive measures, $20,000 more in new weatherization measures. They decided to move forward with electrification at a cost of $185,000, and they pursued some deep retrofit measures, which were a total of $92,000. So again, our incentive is capped at the lesser of the two, either 85% of the scope of work or the maximum available incentives for the cost category. So looking at the new table that popped up in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that for the prescriptive, we are capping out again at the 85% cost of work. For the weatherization and for the electrification measures, we're capping out at the maximum available incentive. And then for deep retrofit, we're capping out at the 85% scope of work. So as you can see in the last column on the bottom table, there are still some remaining available incentives for this project to pursue, should they decide to pursue any additional measures between 2028 and 2030. Here's just a quick summary table of what that looks like over the life cycle of that project in this cycle, or in this funding cycle. So NYSERDA incentives, total NYSERDA incentives paid were $280,950. The cost that the customer had out of pocket was $111,050. For a total $392,000 project, that's not a really bad incentive to be looking at. So I hope that that example was able to show you how the incentives are stackable and how your project can participate in the program multiple times with different scopes of work. Next slide. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions on this one.
Great. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Pam. We do have a lot of questions. Before I start the questions, I'm going to remind everyone again, and for those who've joined since the beginning, we will be sharing the slides after the presentation. This whole webinar is being recorded, and you can watch it if you've missed any of it. You can watch it on NYSERDA's website. All the questions are being submitted through the Slido audience Q&A, so put any questions you have in there. But we will not have time. We've gotten a lot of questions already, so we won't have time to be able to go through all of them. We're trying to highlight the ones that seem highest priority, help provide clarity, also the ones that we're getting asked a lot. Just a reminder, the questions we don't answer today, we're still going to answer in the AMP Up FAQ, and we'll send a link out to the FAQ after the call with the slides. Okay, so with that, I have a list of questions. Pam, first question's for you still. Okay, is the concierge service provider the same as the regional clean energy hubs?
That's a good question. It is not. So your regional clean energy hub will be able to connect you with a concierge provider. If you're not sure who to use for your provider, your clean energy hub can walk you through that process. They'll submit an inquiry form, and then once the program receives that inquiry form, they'll reach out to the person inquiring and connect you with a concierge contractor to use for the program.
Great, thank you, Pam. And then we have a question on slide 19. So I'm going to go back to slide 19. So thank you for including the slide number. That's helpful. So I guess this question's for Maria. If I don't require concierge services, does that mean I cannot get help with program application, et cetera, because it doesn't have a check?
That is a requirement for all projects that are going through the AMP Up technical assistance. So anything that's in the black check mark, that is something that is required. So regardless if you are working with a multifamily contractor or with a concierge.
So just to clarify, the concierge service can be provided by either the concierge or by a multifamily contractor.
Correct.
One of the participating contractors, correct? It's just the concierge service isn't limited to just the concierge, right? These services, all these services listed here can be provided by either type of contractor.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Go back to where we were in the slide deck. Eep, too fast. Okay. Brian, I have a question for you. Can you have your current contractor approved in the network if not already in the network?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we do have our multifamily contractor network. It is open enrollment, and the contractors are required to be part of that network in order to gain access to essentially the portal and the online services and to really go through our onboarding process and be vetted. So what I would say in that situation is if you do have a preferred contractor that you'd want to use for the purposes of AMP Up, I'd ask them to reach out to us, that contractor to reach out to us and apply to join the contractor network. Granted that that might take a little bit of time, but those applications are reviewed on a monthly basis, and so hopefully that shouldn't delay the process, and we can certainly help them in gathering the required information to participate in the contractor network. Alternatively, that contractor could potentially be subcontractor under an existing provider in the contractor network, so that might be something else to consider if they do not wish to apply to the contractor network.
Great, thank you, Brian. Okay, our next question is for Pam. Can common areas be included, especially if it improves apartment energy efficiency?
Yes, we are looking at any residential associated space. So hallways, lobbies, convenience spaces for building tenants, they are all included within the program. Good question.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Pam.
Sure.
Back to Brian. Just to confirm, only building owners can receive concierge services, correct? Contractors don't receive concierge services.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so the concierge services are only available to the building owners through the program. Our essentially our concierge services will be provided by our contractors. They are not provided, those same services are not provided to contractors that you might be working with. Hopefully that clarifies.
Thank you. This question, I think, is either for Maria or Pam. So the person said, sorry if I missed this. Are the concierges tech assistance people NYSERDA employees?
Pam, I can take this if that's okay. So the multifamily contractors that you'll be working with, they're not NYSERDA employees. For the concierge, they're also not NYSERDA employees, but they do have a contract with NYSERDA, I think. And Pam, if there's a better way to clarify that, please let me know.
Nope, I think you did a great job.
Thanks.
Okay. Next up for Pam, is AMP Up only for existing buildings or for new ground ups too?
Yeah, despite my roots being in new construction, AMP Up is only for existing buildings. As Brian had mentioned earlier, one of the things that we have added to the existing building portfolio for this particular program is the substantial renovations, which does include vacant structures. So that is a new component, but not ground up new construction.
Great, thank you. Next up for Brian, does this project have financial assistance in regards to needed upgrades of electric service to a subject building which is needed to allow for air source heat pumps?
Yeah, it's a really good question and something we have certainly heard from the market. Unfortunately, our incentives do not apply to any electric service upgrades that might be needed for a building. Um, you know, there's potentially other programs that might be eligible that you might be able to access for those electric service upgrades. I guess I'm thinking of any IRA funded program opportunities that might be available, but that's right now for multifamily is limited to our Ready Deep program, which is offered through HPD. And so I recognize that people on this call looking for the Upstate program would not be eligible for Ready Deep, which is available for Downstate. But yeah, other than that, there's really not another opportunity for electric service upgrades for incentives.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Let's see. Okay, Pam, question for you. Do all units need to have the same gas or electric account to count as a multifamily?
No, we are able to take master metered buildings or individually metered buildings. So the metering configuration of the building itself does not impact your eligibility to participate in the program, just where you're located and if you meet the other building eligibility requirements.
Great, thank you. Another question for you, Pam. If the building owner chooses a concierge contractor, would they have to choose a separate multifamily contractor for the assessment?
No, the concierge contractors will be able to assist you with your building assessment needs for the program.
So then either the concierge contractor or the multifamily contractor can serve all of
Provide
those
those.
services, correct?
That is correct. In the concierge service for our contractors, for our concierge contractors, they all have specific certifications and have met our requirements to perform building assessments. For our multifamily contractor network, we are requiring that the energy assessor category be used for the pre-qualifying component to be eligible to participate in the program. So they're all eligible to participate and complete energy assessments for the customers. It's a good
Great,
question.
thank you. Okay, again, Pam, is the AMP Up eligible measures list in the program manual?
It is not in the program manual. It is a separate document that's located on the resources page. So if you go to our main program page, which is nicerta.ny.gov/amp-up, scroll down to the bottom, there is a resources link. I think you can also type /resources after the amp up and get there as well.
Great, thank you. I still have a few more questions for you all. This one's for Brian. With the stages of cost shares noted, are those for reimbursement so entities may need gap funding or not?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the technical assistance is operating essentially as a reimbursement. We would get the required tech assistance components, the deliverables, the final deliverables to pay out that tech assistance payment, that cost share. I would say that the funds are to be dedicated to the contractor for tech assistance and concierge services. So the expectation is that they do not pass off those costs to the building owner if they could. I think with the concierge contractors, there are, as Pam is kind of indicating that there's different types of contractors that we have, and so those do have different payment structures, and so there could be the opportunity to pay out sort of on a more monthly um, time and materials basis, so that it's not a reimbursement as might be required with the tech assistance piece. But I would say we can detail that more in the FAQ. But it really does depend on the contractor structure and the payment structure that we have for those contractors. Um, on maybe if, as I have the mic for just one moment, to just amend what I said previously about the payment for electric service upgrades, thinking about it a little bit further, Inflation Reduction Act funds that do offer funds for electric service upgrades are really just through one component, one color of money, which is the HERE funding color of money. That is not the color of money that is funding Ready Deep. So unfortunately, there is not an upstate opportunity, as I kind of mentioned before, but there's not an upstate opportunity for electric service upgrade funding. But just really wanted to clarify that even the Ready Deep program that I mentioned does not have that. That is not an eligible measure that could be funded there.
Thank you so much for that clarification, Brian. Okay, let's see. I have a question for Pam. For the concierge services, are those only assigned to NYSERDA if a participating contractor is not selected in advance, or is it available to all applicants, program participants?
Yep, the concierge services are available to all projects participating in the program. So it's the core of what needs to be done in order to participate in the program. So preparation of program application, building assessment, preparation of scope of work, submitting the documentation to the program. That's all kind of the minimum requirements that are needed by your participating contractor. And that is what the core of the offering for those concierge services provides.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions. This one's for Pam again. How should customers of condos apply? Can we do one application for the whole building, or must every owner apply individually?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this program does operate on a building level or project level if there are multiple buildings, not on a unit level. So the entire building would need to apply. So you would need to work with your condo board to make sure that everyone has the proper buy-in, and then the application would be submitted on behalf of the owners for the entire building.
Thank you. Another question for Brian. Does this project have financial assistance in regards to needed upgrade of electric? I think this might be the same question. That I believe is the same question, so I'm going to skip that one.
Okay.
But still, the next question is for you too, Brian. which is there an incentive for the creation of an on-site microgrid? So 2 to 3 sources of renewable energy. So a microgrid plant which serves the entire site.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So right now, that is not one of our eligible measures. Our eligible measure list really is specific to energy efficiency upgrades and building electrification upgrade measures. Uh, Certainly, I think if there is a proposal um, to go beyond what's in that eligible measure list, you can reach out to us to assess it. But at this point, no, that would not be one of our eligible measures. But if you do reach out to us, we may be able to redirect that proposal to another team at NYSERDA that could provide assistance.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more questions coming in. I'm gonna ask the question I was gonna skip, and just it's again about the electric service, the upgrade of electric service. But is there any outside of the project, is there financial assistance available for that type of work that you're aware of? And Brian, I'm asking you.
Yeah. I mean, potentially. I think the thought that I have, and this is more so just thinking about it, if it's electric service upgrades that's coupled with that electrification measure, there might be an opportunity in I would say potentially with the New York Green Bank and their funding that they have for affordable housing. NYSEG might be another potential option. So I don't, I wouldn't want to speculate too much in terms of what specifically are the program requirements for those for receiving those financial assistance, but those are potentially other options that could be explored.
Thank you for that, Brian. I understand you're saying like we're here to talk about AMP Up, not these other financial services, but these are some good places to start looking, and maybe there'll be some financing available there. I think I only have one more question for right now, which is for Pam. And the question is there a cap for a large project?
Well, the cap is really mitigated by the incentive categories and then the scope of work, but we don't have a master cap like over top of that. That is not true for the resilience addendum or for the resilience enhancements, which I think is a good segue to end this question session.
Okay, great. With that, I will pass it to Anna.
Great, thank you so much. So as mentioned earlier, we are excited to share that AMP Up is the first NYSERDA program to offer climate resiliency measures within our program, and we have termed those resilience enhancements. These measures are aiming to protect the energy saving measures and, of course, also the building occupants from hazards including flooding, extreme heat, and extreme windstorms. So if you go to the next slide, the goal of these resilience enhancements is primarily to reduce risk to low and moderate income New Yorkers by offering right time resiliency upgrades in tandem with the AMP Up upgrades, so that we're only going into a particular building or project once and making things as resilient as possible within the scope of the project. You'll see more details about this in the coming slides, but at a high level, these measures include floodproofing of critical electrical and mechanical equipment, incentives for resilient cooling for heat vulnerable populations, and hurricane resistant windows. The incentives are both for the installation of the measure and where design is needed, especially for the floodproofing measures, that is also covered. Very importantly, these incentives are additive. They do not apply towards the AMP Up total project incentive cap. They are capped at $500,000 per project and are subject to NYSERDA review and approval throughout, as this is a new offering and we are getting a sense of the costs, but our intention is to really have some generous incentives here. So moving first to our flood hazard enhancements. The table looks a little complicated, but the main thing to know is that the kind of primary kinds of measures offered here is flood proofing of heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, and heat or energy recovery ventilation measures. So these are for projects, all of these flood hazard enhancements are for projects that are deemed flood exposed. The definition of that is on the screen. Basically, if you are in the 100 or 500 year FEMA floodplain, or if you've had documented flooding on your site in the past. And essentially, if you are already installing measures, such the measures listed here, heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, or heat or energy recovery ventilation systems, you will also do the flood proofing of those systems. NYSERDA will pay for up to 100% of the total cost of both the installation and the design of that flood proofing. So that is the flood proofing design assistance in the first row there. And if your project is flood exposed and you're doing these measures, flood proofing is mandatory, but we will pay for it. If you'd like, you may also elevate your electrical panel above the flood elevation, and we'll pay for up to 85 or 70% of that work in accordance with the low-rise or large building pathways incentive caps. And just noting, based on the questions we were getting, this isn't an electric service upgrade, it's just the relocation of the physical panel so that it isn't covered by floodwaters in the event of a flood. And while it's not on the screen, these payments generally follow the same schedule as the main AMP-UP incentives, with payments throughout the different construction stages. Next up, we have the extreme heat enhancement. So this one is called electrification for heat vulnerable populations. And in general, this is just adding additional incentives towards heating and cooling heat pump measures for heat vulnerable populations or buildings that qualify. The definition is on the slide here, but in general, this measure comes because we know that heat pumps are generally a more energy efficient way to cool a space than older and traditional window AC units. So we are providing up to 30% of the cost of the heating and cooling heat pumps in additional incentives. Just like with the rest of these incentives, this can't exceed 100% of the cost of the measure, but it's intended to additionally incentivize this more resilient cooling system for those heat vulnerable populations. And this payment will be distributed at stage 4. Next up, the last incentive here that we have is for extreme wind. This is hurricane resistant windows, and it is available to all projects all across the state. Basically, if you are already planning to do window replacement as part of your AMP-UP project, we are providing incentives to upgrade not only to a high performance window that meets the AMP-UP specifications, but also a hurricane resistant high performance window. So this window would be both high performance and provide hurricane resistance. For this, NYSERDA is covering or incentivizing up to 50% of the cost difference between the hurricane window versus a regularly qualifying AMP-UP window. But we will also note that New York State law says that any building with hurricane windows qualifies for an insurance premium discount. So we think that this upgrade can unlock additional lifetime cost savings for the buildings that participate. This payment will also be distributed at stage 4. And that's it. Those are our resilience enhancements. All of them, kind of go in tangent with their corresponding AMP-UP measures, but are intended to make those measures more resilient while making the building safer and reducing risk for building occupants. So I'll hand it back to Shelley. I believe we have another poll.
Thank you, Anna. We do have another poll. So this is our last poll, but we're really excited about these resilience enhancements, and we wanted to ask you all some questions. I will launch the poll, so you can answer the questions while I'm talking. But first, have you undertaken any climate resilience improvements to your buildings or worked on a project that did in the past? And if yes, which hazards have you worked on? And then separately, which of these enhancements are you most excited about? So I'm going to give you all a minute to answer those. Let's see, we have so far at least one person who's worked on improvements such as this. That's exciting. We're hoping these incentives allow you to do it more now moving forward. But glad to see, oh good, already 5 projects, 5 people have worked on these before. 6, 7. Okay, let's see what hazards they're working on. Let's see. Oh, we have a lot of people who have worked on, extreme heat projects in the past, some winter weather, some flooding, some extreme wind, some other. This is really great. So we so far have, so you all know, 15 different people have said that they've worked on these projects in the past. And let's see, this last question, what enhancements are you most excited about? I agree. I'm also excited about the electrification for heat vulnerable populations. I think that's a great incentive. I think it hits my heart. Like I'm really excited that NYSERDA is offering that incentive. We also have excitement about the flood proofing design assistance, the electric panel elevation, the flood proofing of different systems. So that is all very interesting. I will leave that poll open so people can keep responding if they want. And with that, I will pass it to Pam to go through next steps.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a great poll. Really interesting answers. Thanks everyone for participating. If you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide. So as we're winding down our webinar today, I just wanted to address the most important question of all, which is how can we apply to the program? So we have a couple of different ways that you can kind of gain access into the program. On the next slide, there will be a QR code that you'll be able to take a screenshot of or take a photo of, whatever you call it. And that will, when you scan that QR code, that will bring you to the interest form that we had talked about a little bit earlier today. There's about 10 fields that require your information. It's pretty basic. You can see a quick screenshot of those questions here on the right. You'll fill out that interest form and hit submit. That's going to come over to the program, and our program is either going to reach out to you to work with you on the next steps, or we'll pair you up with a concierge contractor and they'll reach out to you to help guide you through that process. Option 2, if you're located in Western New York or in the Mohawk Valley region, please reach out and contact your Clean Energy Hub. We are piloting, working with those 2 regional clean energy hubs to help us get the program into the market. So please reach out to your contacts at the hubs. They will be more than happy to help you understand the program and to help you fill out this interest form and get you connected with the right people. And then lastly, if you have a contractor that you work with and they are a vetted and qualified participating contractor with NYSERDA, you can work directly with them. They'll be able to go ahead and submit the application on your behalf to the program and get you started. Next slide. So we're going to hold here just for a moment. This is the QR code for the program. There is a link on that main page that goes right to the inquiry form that we were talking about. And of course, if you want to go to our website directly, feel free to type in www.nyserda.ny.gov/amp up. or feel free to email us any questions that may pop up in your mind after our webinar today at multifamilyprograms@nycerta.ny.gov. Thank you. Shelley, do we have a time for more questions?
We do. We have a few more minutes
Great.
for questions. I'm going to leave this screen up just for a minute so people are,
Perfect.
get out your phone and scan that QR code. Let's see. Ask the speakers to turn on their cameras. Okay, our first question is for you, Pam. Is it possible that a project apply for each of the incentive categories within the same project? For example, in support of a deep energy retrofit, some prescriptive measures need to be completed, some weatherization and electrification.
Absolutely. That's the glory of the program, is that we are providing that flexibility. You can do as little or as much as you want to. We welcome, the smaller projects, and we welcome those more comprehensive projects. So bring them on in, and we'll love to guide you through the process.
Thank you, Pam. I also realized I forgot my little pitch at the beginning, which is reminder to everyone and to those of you who are joined late that we will be sending out the slides after the presentation. We are recording this webinar, so if you missed any of it, you can go back and watch it from the NYSERDA website. If you have questions, please use the Slido Q&A, and we'll get through as many of them as we can. But we won't have time to get through them all. But don't worry, all the AMP-UP questions we're going to put into the FAQ document and send a link to the FAQ along with the slide decks. So we will get to all the answers eventually. We'll get down to the ones that we can today. Okay, so I have a question for you, Maria. Would concierge services include applications for programs such as, I think EGC, I think is the
Enterprise Green Communities.
Enterprise. Yeah, Green Communities, thank you.
Yeah.
Or is it only for AMP-UP?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question. The application is only for the AMP-UP application, so we can't cover the costs for any other applications that are being completed at that time. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, question for Pam. What is the best way to see or access the list of concierge contractors?
So again, all of our contractors provide these services. So if you're interested in looking and contracting directly with a contractor of your choice, we would encourage you to go to the NYSERDA website and search up Find a Contractor. In the commercial section at the very bottom, there's a link for the Multifamily Contractor Network. And in that contractor network, you'll be looking for anyone that has an energy assessor classification. If you're not sure who you want to work with and you want a contractor assigned to you, we have a back pocket full of contractors ready and raring to go. We don't have a list of those available because they are on contract with us directly, so we do manage their workload. And so we assign based on workload availability and location.
Thank you, Pam.
Sure.
Okay, we have another question here for Brian. This question, for a mixed use building, can any of the funds be applied to the non-residential space?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when we look at mixed-use buildings, what we are interrogating when it comes to upgrades that include the non-residential space is, are those benefits also primarily benefiting the residential space? As I said before, mixed-use buildings, for them to qualify, over 50% of the gross heated square footage must be residential space or residentially associated space. So what we typically would see is like a heating system that benefits the overall building. That heating system, the main upgrading that system, the primary benefits are going to the residential spaces, and so we would consider providing the incentives for that heating upgrade. So that said, if it's something that's per unit, and it could be easily parsed out, residential and non-residential space, then the expectation is that only the residential space would be covered with those incentives.
Great, thank you, Brian. A question for Pam. Can the electrification incentives be combined with clean heat incentive? And maybe that's actually a question for Anna, but.
Oh,
no, sorry. That's electrification. Sorry. That is for you, Pam.
Okay, I can take that one. Yeah, so thinking back to that table where Brian had shared the coordination with other programs, AMP Up incentives cannot be combined with New York State Clean Heat. That's one of the ones that we specifically called out. So that would not apply in this instance.
Okay, great. We have another question again for Pam. Does every tenant need to sign application paperwork?
No, every tenant does not need to sign application paperwork. Every owner will have to sign some application paperwork, of course. We do require some utility data authorization forms. We have a new Spiffy online application though, so we've tried to make it a little bit easier for tenants to go in and sign off. We do collect utility usage just so that we can analyze the baseline and the performance of the measures that are being upgraded, but we don't require 100% sampling. There is a document that is available on our resources website that outlines how many tenant applications we'll need for accessing their utility information.
Great, thank you. It looks like we might have a couple more questions, but it's taking a moment to get them through our process. In the meantime, here's our question slides again. Oh, it looks like we're done with questions for today. So thank you to all the speakers. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the audience. We're so excited about this program launching. We can't wait to see your projects, can't wait for you to come on as new contractors. You know, as you've heard, we're all very excited about this new program, and we hope that it's going to be able to reach projects that, you know, have had a hard time being able to access incentives in the past. There's a lot of engagement that went into developing these incentives, the resilience enhancements incentives and AMP Up. So we're really hopeful that this program is something that's really interesting to you all, and we really look forward to hearing from you. And again, just want to thank you for your time, and thank you to the speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Have
for
a
joining
great day,
this
everyone.
morning.
Thank you.
Have a good
Take
day.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.